All right. So I am here with my guest, Keith Turner, with Homestead Funding, previously with Q Mortgage, right back, was that 2011-ish, around there, 2012? Yeah. So I appreciate you. You are my first episode, so I appreciate that opportunity. Just want to kind of touch on who Keith is. So he is the number one loan originator for CHFA in Connecticut. Congratulations. That's quite the success. The day best of the best, 2015, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I didn't see 22 as well. Yeah. Forgive me for missing that one out. And 325 5-star Google reviews, 434 5-star Zillow reviews. Cool. I think they classify that as a 5-star professional. 40 under 40. That's also another one up there that I saw. And then a 2020 eCar Affiliate of the Year. So, highly decorated. So I appreciate this opportunity kind of jumping on with me here.
My pleasure.
Just quickly about my show. So my show is to spotlight individuals like you who've been in the profession, who's starting businesses, and want to give them a spotlight, kind of talk about themselves.
Sure.
I know that can seem a little awkward at times because I don't like talking about myself, but I thought it was just a cool idea to start the podcast. That's why it's named Your Platform Podcast. So let's quickly jump into your background. So you went to University of Pitt.
Yep.
Graduated in 07?
07. Civil engineering, focused in structures.
Yep.
Structural engineering.
Okay. And then I did a little digging into stuff that I didn't know. So you civil engineer for Michael Baker with the...
Yeah, we did like bridge design.
Bridge design. So I want to touch on that before I kind of go into the questions about the mortgages stuff. So what was that transition? So again, I guess what interests you the most, kind of going through your schooling and I guess bridge design, like that's a niche.
Yeah. So I went to Pitt was civil engineering. I was going the astronaut route, and your undergrad really doesn't matter as much when you're going that route. And then realized you could be down in Huntsville, Alabama for your life, technically be an astronaut, never go up in space. My grad school was aerospace, which made a lot more sense down at Georgia Tech. And that was just 2008. And came back, worked for Michael Baker for a little bit, was doing bridge design as that first job out of college. And I enjoyed it. Around here, a couple of the projects that they've done is one of the piers out on the naval base.
Oh, nice.
Way back, this is back in the 90s, but they did the Nyack Bay, Waterford Nyack Bay Bridge. Yep. Obviously, that was well before I was even, thinking that route.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's really what was motivating me, the engineering wise. It gave me a huge, not leg up. I don't like to use that word, but just like a huge foundation for mortgages. Because I always joke around with a lot of the engineers that come in here to our office from Electric Boat is that all that we're doing is applied math and regulations, which is really, not to simplify it, that's all that engineering for the most part is. So it really kind of translated I won't say pretty easily, but with a little bit more socialness. Engineers aren't known for their social skills. So this job, it's all about communication and teamwork and stuff. So.
Do you still dabble into? I mean, again, I had to do a little research on myself. I'm not an engineer, so I had to kind of look up some bridges, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But is that something you still kind of find yourself having? I don't know if engineering is a passion, but you kind of still dive into the work a little bit.
I don't say the work, but I would. It's still something that always interested me. You see the New River Gorge Bridge out in West Virginia. See some of these anything structural that is built, or you see like the Minnesota bridge that collapsed. This is almost a decade ago. That was a big thing that would just I don't say that interests me, but when it comes up in the news, you kind of you have a little bit more knowledge of why something collapsed. But yeah, it was a great background, and wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Awesome. So, what are some of the most inspiring bridges you've encountered? Having that background, is that something that you wanted to see, like the different structural bridges out there?
Yeah. The I can't think of the name of it, but the bridge that kind of comes out of the Big Dig in Boston. That was always a nice, a cool one. Sydney, Australia's main bridge. all the ones that you would think would look cool.
Yeah.
The ones that are just kind of like suspension bridges that when they're built, you kind of look and you're like, that really shouldn't be standing, but structurally they're sound.
That's so, which leads me. So I again did my own little research on bridges here. So suspension bridge, that would be the Golden Gate Bridge in California. That's a suspension bridge.
That would be one.
Yep. So after doing a little bit of research, it's designed. My first thought before doing the research was, hey, what if there's an earthquake? But I guess that's the purpose of that type of bridge, right?
Gives a little bit. That's designed into it. The different loads.
Yep.
All that was that differential equation, all that math stuff of making sure that if there's too many cars on this side of the bridge of the pier versus this side, or a snow load, or a lot of rain or something. Everybody's probably seen that video from like the 1920s of the bridge that was wobbling, and it only had a 40-mile-an-hour winds, but it was blowing at the right pace, I guess, miles per hour, that it kind of oscillated, and all of a sudden it just went nuts and collapsed.
Wow.
So that really built up a lot of the codes. So when you hear like like an accident, maybe on the Gold Star Bridge or something, those bridges are so over-designed.
Yeah.
You never have to worry about those things happening.
It's funny because I remember, and I guess it's not funny because someone did lose their life last year on the bridge, but I saw a comment that you made on someone that the bridge is structurally sound. And that's where I was like, I wonder how he knows. And that's kind of what led me to do the little bit of digging on the. So
I mean, it would take so much more to melt some of the metal on that bridge. Yeah. And if one part collapses, there's so much, what's the word? Not duplication, but
like a compound of like that kind of compound into each other, or
like over design basically. So if something like that happens, they're good.
So
real exciting stuff.
I mean, listen, it is though, because I wouldn't have. I mean, again, from what I'm trying to accomplish on the podcast is I want to dive deep into the person that's doing this.
Yeah,
I never knew any of this about you.
Yeah,
so it then led me to kind of.
Doesn't come up often.
Right. But it does become interesting because it's like, all right, well, I ended up looking up, the spiral design. So the Rui Bridge in China. The Rui? I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah. But, it's a spiral design, and there's several different designs on there. The Sky Bridge in Michigan, that was another one that stood out to me. Again, I just was like, wow, these are some other ones. And then the Puente de la Mujer, which is in Argentina, has a rotating mechanism. Okay. And there's a reason why I'm asking this stuff. And then the 7 Mile Bridge in Florida Keys, running 6.8, pretty much almost 7 miles. Is there a bridge that you can think of that kind of pushed the boundaries of engineering, kind of, that you can think off the top? And again, if not, that's fine. I'm just curious.
Not so much a specific bridge, but I would say a lot of times the like how quickly they can get another bridge in place. Mm-hmm. Like in Georgia, there were a lot of people might remember there was an accident underneath just a normal little bridge on Interstate 85, and it totally screwed up traffic throughout the whole town for like a hot second, and it just melted and collapsed like a portion of the bridge. And within weeks, they had taken that out, redesigned it. Like designing a bridge is not an easy thing that you just plug into Google. Right. They put that in, had the concrete poured, and it was back in a matter of like a month or two. That's cool.
Are there what if scenarios that they keep in mind when designing bridges? Like, hey, what if something like this that happens?
Oh yeah, there's so many guidelines that it's just, as we're sort of saying, the snow load, the weight load, the this type of axle truck on it versus this one. What if you have all the traffic is just backed up and you've got 18 wheelers packed with whatever? Yeah. I hate to have to say it, but from a terrorism standpoint, there's posts. Sometimes the bridges will curve on purpose so that you can't get enough speed to go towards whatever destination at the speed that you're trying to get to. Yeah. So there's books and books.
And is that kind of like the design of the tall skyscrapers in cities where it's like it's designed to kind of how the 9/11 kind of collapsed? Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of it's on a lot of college campuses now is or sporting venues. You'll see these little concrete posts, and some people think it's for funneling people in, but it's also to help stop cars from getting to, and they'll retract into the ground. They'll come up just like at the sub base.
Yep.
They have those Jersey barriers. So you have to drive through. Same sort of design.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How does a bridge designer balance the technical requirements with the aesthetic appeal to structure? Does it play? Like, is like a major role into?
That's what I would say. There's architects and engineers, and they get along, but they kind of don't. It's like the architects say we want it to look like this. The engineers go, well, you can't because it's going to fail. Right. And then the engineers say we want it to look like that, and the architects, will say, well, that doesn't look good. It looks like just a box. So everybody's got their strength. That's really.
So that was just the bridge stuff. For me, I generally was interested in learning a little bit about that. So it's nice to hear. Let's transition.
I got plenty of college books at home.
I don't know if I have enough time. I'm trying to work on this here. We're going to transition into the mortgage industry a little bit. So you jumped in 2011? 11. What were some of the earlier learning curves that you had in jumping in?
It was, a lot of it was after the collapse of the housing crisis in 2008. There's a lot of guidelines, where while I grew up in a family that was in the mortgage industry, so I knew a lot of the stuff. I wasn't, in the market when, or the business when the guidelines were so loose. So I didn't really learn the I don't want to say the wrong way to do it,
but the bad practice.
So I kind of always describe, I learned as the guidelines were getting really tough. So that's just how I knew, or how I grew up in it. But it was a lot of just not trial and error, but I had a great team. I still have a great team, and anybody that thinks that they can do their job by themselves is lying. So I have a lot of joke around. I have a lot of moms and dads that watched through and said, "Hey, this is how we do this part, the verifications of employment. This is what we're going to need in the documents." And again, I'd always helped out doing the math side of stuff, but it wasn't really customer facing. Right. So it was just, that was probably the biggest learning curve, was learning what underwriting needs, not so much the client needs, but controlling those expectations to the client and saying, I know this is getting a little frustrating, but this is why they need it. Right. And then the more you can kind of get out in front of the issue before it becomes an issue, that's the name of the game in this business.
I was going to say, having mentors and people that can teach you how to do that stuff the right way pays dividends. Look where you are now, and probably those guys in 2008 who weren't. How many of them are probably still kind of rolling? So,
and on that note, I always joke around that there's enough room in the sandbox for all of us. So I never really think of other mortgage lenders as, it's going to sound cocky, but not as competition. We're all, technically it's competition, but we're all in the same boat together. We specialize in one thing, they specialize in something else. We all play. We all play well together, and I'll get a call from one of them, or I'll call them and say, "Hey, how did you solve this issue?" And they call me, and we work through it together, because at the end of the day, we're all just in the same boat.
Yeah. So one of the things I think I admire about you the most is that you're well connected. You give back to the community. You built the established network around you. And I think that when we think about some of the other players in the game, again, not to throw shade at anybody, but you do it best out of all, in my opinion. That's in my opinion. How did you get there, and how did you establish yourself in kind of
I appreciate that. Thanks. It was just, I was brought up, my father was in Rotary. So, a lot of those United Way Day of Carings, helping out at the community meal center. I just kind of thought that was just part of what you did growing up. And, I'm a big proponent of, if you got more room at the table, if you got, more food than you need, you bring people to the table, as opposed to putting up, and saying this is only mine. And, the more you give, the more you get. That's not why we'll volunteer, but it's nobody ever volunteered and felt and regretted it, or nobody gave back to the community and regretted it. So I just try to, one big motto that I've always had was my father's was, I'm going to see you and Stop and Shop, and I don't want to have to hide behind the Coca-Cola machine. And if you just run any business that way, you can't please everybody, but at least they can't say that he was a bad guy.
It's funny that you say that, because again, in my research, that's one of the things I did. I went back on your Facebook timeline, and you had mentioned,
you really dug deep, man.
I dug deep. Yeah. I dug deep. And I think I went probably back to 11 or 12. And one of your Facebook statuses like, hey, what sets me apart is that if you see me at the grocery store, I'm not going to be one that hides away from it. I don't know if you remember that post, but I was like, that's why you are where you are today. Yeah. And I think that those are valuable lessons that, that were passed down to you. And I think that those are valuable lessons that in business and where we are today in 2024, not necessarily out there. And to see that it's admirable in what you do.
There's a lot of people that are proud of like the hustle or the grind. And I would say there's nothing bad about grinding, about just working hard. I'm not a big proponent of hustling. Hustling feels like, or sounds like it feels like you're pulling a fast one on someone. Right. And we're all doing like insurance, mortgages, financial advising, whatever. You're always, whatever business you're in, I mean, you're helping somebody do something that they want to accomplish, not necessarily that you want to accomplish. Right. And the big thing, I think my biggest advantage is that I learned the importance of a mentor, a good mentor, whether it was in Rotary or business. There was an attorney who's since passed, but he really kind of took me under his shoulder. And he, his first couple of years, he goes, okay, don't do that again. Yeah. Do that again, and that just, it helped, I had big shoes to fill. Yeah. But it wasn't, how to explain it? Yeah. I mean, I had big shoes to fill, and that I put pressure on myself. Right. I joke around, self-employed, you're your own boss, and sometimes your boss is, pardon my French, an ass. So I really try to force myself to push the envelope. Yeah. Somebody says they can't do this mortgage. Well, let me take a look at it, check it out, try to find a solution, as opposed to just going, oh yeah, they're right, you can't get it. Like more often than not, there's a solution. It might be a month down the road, 2 months down the road, working on somebody's credit. That's what we're kind of known for, is not just great rates and helping you through the process, but getting you into that batter's box to get a house. Right. There's people that come in with zero credit, bad credit. Nobody's always a bad student. You can become a great student, and nobody's always a great student. You got to stay with it. Right. So it's a lot of just education. Yeah. So you kind of touched on some obstacles and some of the things that you had to that you had to overcome. Can you kind of just touch on how the industry has changed in your 15 plus years of doing this? You had the financial crisis in 2008, right? Yeah. All that where pretty much anybody could get a loan. Yeah. You got a pulse. That's right. You got technology coming into play now with AI and all that stuff. And I'll have some questions about that. And then COVID, right? Yeah. COVID kind of disrupted everybody, and everybody's like, wait, but happened to be some of the most people, like that was the best 2 years, 2020, 2021. Yeah. How has that shifted a little bit for you, and how have you navigated through it? Yeah. When I first started, I mean, up until 2016, 2017, when we were McHugh until about 2016, 17. And every single mortgage application I did was in person. Okay. Flip the page over. Okay. This is what document you're signing. And people, obviously, you want to make sure they know what they're signing, right? Of course. Right. But a lot of people, the most important piece is, what's my interest rate? How much am I bringing to the closing? What's my monthly payment? And what are the terms of my mortgage? They know that we're going to communicate with the attorney, and you give us permission to talk to the insurance agent, whatever. So when we became Homestead, it was really to do a lot of docu-signing. And when COVID happened, our business almost doubled. Because people just didn't want to come into the office, and they already, we went through all the numbers, and they still, knew all of the important stuff. Sure. But then they were just like, I'm cooking dinner. Let me read through my documents real quick, and then they closed on their house, and it just helped streamline the process. So COVID helped. It changed. It was definitely a paradigm shift. It changed how we did business, and then now where business is slowing down, it's a lot more of educating people and going, buy a house now before the rates come back down. Right. So before all the rush of everybody else comes back in. And then also, working with the real estate agents that have been doing it for a long time, but also the ones that might have gotten in during COVID and realize some of them are now realizing that it's not business. It's not just get your license and sell houses. There's some work that goes into it.
Yeah, the crypto effect, right? Like, hey, you buy this Dogecoin and it's going to boom. Everybody start getting into real estate. Like, you're going to make all this money, which again, it depends what efforts and work you put into it.
They got 20 Airbnbs and now they nobody's renting any of them. And so, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I had from engineering was, there were some late nights, some all-nighters studying, and you just learned that grit of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
You set those goals, and some of them you accomplish, some of them you don't. You learn why you didn't.
Right.
And that way, there's some clients that when we, my knock on wood is, when I tell somebody they're good for a house, they close. They will, other than an inspection that doesn't go ideal or something like that. But from a mortgage standpoint, it will always close. Right. Sometimes we are dragging them to the closing, helping get their documents. I'm driving the documents over. But it teaches you to stick with it as opposed to, they just aren't responding to my emails, just on to the next one. Yeah. And that's, I hope that that's what separates us. And I hope that other mortgage people that I've just become friends with over the years, that I've helped them along too, to learn that it isn't just a one and done. Right. These are, I try not to use the term when I see somebody in public, they're one of my past clients. No, they're my client. Right. We were always with them. We tend to hold on to, a decent amount of these mortgages, and we're always tracking them. If we see a refinance opportunity, hey, let's get rid of mortgages. We're watching it, and not just see ya, done. I got my commission, and we're out of here. Right. So that's I try to, I don't want to say play the long game. It sounds weird, but I try to be their mortgage person for life as opposed to just another name on a business card.
Right. One of the things you just said to me, which is going to kind of lead me to my next question, is delaying the gratification. I think we live in a time where we want things very instantly, whether we want that quick dopamine hit, right? I want this sugar treat. I want, my son right now, I think I might have shared this with you last time we met. He gets so frustrated when he can't watch something that he needs to watch right now. And it's like, dude, man, we had to wait back in the day. Like at 8:30, this show came on. Yeah.
You could only play video games when it was on channel 30.
Exactly. So, when you have the level of success that you do, you don't just roll out of bed and just do it. There's a specific routine that you have. What are some of your daily routines that kind of get you into that mode that I'm ready to roll?
Yeah, it's a system. Is once you get the system down, a lot of mortgage stuff, just like in insurance, it's it's credit, income, and assets. No matter if you're a millionaire or not a millionaire, we got to make sure the credit's good, the income, the assets, so we can kind of diagnose, see what's the best type of mortgage for someone, or their kind of their game plan. And so it's just going through the same motions, whether they are buying something that's very inexpensive, very expensive, making sure that they know what they could qualify for, but telling them, hey, just because you can qualify, and I have that conversation with, top to bottom, everybody. But we'll, once they're under contract on a house, send it over to my assistant. She's ordering the appraisal. We're sending it to the attorney. We've got our cheat sheet, so we know when the appraisal comes in. Did we get the insurance from Paul? All that stuff. So we're, I had known somebody that had taught me a lot of what they called self-solving circles. So every Monday, Pam is calling the client saying, hey, did you get your insurance yet? Did you take your first-time home buyer class? If you need to, take it. And then we don't hear from them, maybe till next Monday. We call them again. So that way, no matter what chaos that happens throughout that week, you're always circling back and making sure that you didn't forget about something. Or if I see on my little cheat sheet, hey, that appraisal hasn't come in and it's all the rest of them after have, let's call the appraiser. Hey, what's going on? That way you just don't miss a step. Yeah. And also just having, at Homestead, I've got a great team of back office people. I call them the ops team, the operations team, your underwriters, your processors. They got my back. Yeah. While it looks like it's just me here, I got a team of probably about 100 people, most up in Albany and Northern Connecticut, that are just an extension of myself. And for me, coming in here, I'm here every single weekday. A lot of people think I don't work on the weekends. I do. I got that computer open. I try to obviously have that family time. I know last time we were talking the importance of that, but I could do a mortgage. I always joke around from a cardboard box, but there's something to be said about coming in, sitting down, running through the numbers. This is probably one of the most important financial decisions most people are going to make. Let's do it right and spend an extra 35, 40 minutes so that you understand what's going on.
One of the things that I see a lot of, I follow a lot of entrepreneurs and professionals, and there's some specific principles, whether it be organization, whether it be, this mindfulness that they take, do in the morning, things like that. What are some guiding principles for you that you always latched onto and that you continue to hang on to today and it propels your work?
Get out of bed and get in the office as quick as I can. Procrastination. No, I'm sure. I would say, back in high school, there was a teacher. He was actually an American history teacher, but he took and a lot of kids that I went to high school with will remember that class. It's just one of those classes you stick with you. He said the 5 keys to success was organization, use of technology and learning, always learning, cooperation, time management, and communication. And without any of those, that's been something I've always had like on a Post-it note over the years, college here. When I was teaching the principles and practices for new agents, I said, you're in the business of controlling expectations. Whether you do mortgages, insurance, real estate, whatever, I'm always trying to a point, I want to be worst case scenario. Hey, this is the highest that, if your insurance is really expensive for whatever reason, this is what your payment's going to be. So that when they find great insurance, it comes back down. Or, hey, that closing date, I always say it's like a baby's due date. It's on the contract. We're aiming for it. That way, if that happens, hey, Keith told me this could happen. They're happy. So my big thing was always those 5 keys to success. And I've just kind of stuck with those. And then just controlling expectations.
It's amazing how much, when I look back to my high school, I'm like, man, I just hated being here.
Some classes say
but there are things that stand out. I too had someone who said organization was the key to success. And then in college, there was one thing that my professor had said was, if there's anything that a man can show his children is that they love their mother, that he loves their mother. And those are the two things, side note to kind of work principles that really stick out to me. And it's just funny how you said something that kind of is in alignment that I think that, again, is where you are today. So
when my son, he's almost 14 months, doesn't know what the heck's going on. He's still eating his feet. But if he's sitting there and he sees my wife and I try to give her an extra hug, so he sees, what a normal,
what love is,
as normal as we can, normal family, what it is, and what, I'd heard somebody say, what was the key to success? And those were my keys to success business wise. But another key was he had said, growing up, making sure my kids are people that I'd be proud of. And I was like, you could be a great mortgage person, realtor, attorney, insurance person, but people will always remember, oh my God, that guy is kind of a, what? And nobody cares how much money you did, how many closings you had. They know who you were personality wise.
People always remember how you make them feel.
So going back to that motto, every closing isn't always the smoothest. Our aim is to make sure it's smooth, but things come up. But at the end of the day, some clients that I thought they never wanted to see me ever again have been some of our biggest clients that have sent over their friends because they just appreciated it. And they said, in these non-calm waters, Keith still, walked me through it. We got to the closing. And my big thing was, a lot of people have said, they say good things about my dad, which is, I always am appreciative when I hear that. And they're like, he was kind of like a dad for me. And I was lucky one that had him as a dad. And but yeah, his his big thing was just, you're guiding them through something they've never been through. Mm-hmm. So you try to have a little bit more patience, walk them through it. And just like insurance, it's not just getting an insurance binder. It's, guiding them why they need that coverage, or why don't they need the coverage.
So just jumping into CHFA, if you can kind of quickly, just 2 minutes, what CHFA is, and any unique challenges, or maybe share a story, not specifically about any no names or anything like that, how you kind of help them using that program to buy a home.
Yeah, so CHFA I kind of always describe as a first-time home buyer. For the most part, it's not, you don't always have to be a first-time home buyer, but majority of the time, first-time home buyer hat that can just go on top of any of those normal mortgage programs. So you've got a FHA loan or a VA mortgage, first-time home buyer, military person. Instead of going VA, let's go CHFA VA. So CHFA is Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. Their big thing is home ownership, owner-occupied home ownership, because as you know, the more stable neighborhoods are the ones that have, people, they're not rental neighborhoods. They're all just people that have pride of ownership. And where CHFA comes in is they really fit, a gap where there's state programs for down payment assistance. And a lot of people think you need to have 20% down for a down payment. You don't. We can do down payment assistance where we roll all the down payment and closing costs into a little mini mortgage. Let you pay that off just like you're paying off the big mortgage. There's a I hate to call it a grant, but there's a forgivable loan out there called Time to Own. It's an extra 25, maybe 50,000, depending on where the house, what town, or what parts of the town it's in. That's just free money. It's a forgivable grant. So you stay in the house long enough, and that money just goes away. There's, for me, I'll say to clients, I get paid the same amount no matter what type of loan we're going with. Right. So I'm never going to steer you one way or the other. If there's some free money out there, I don't know about you, but I would love free $25,000
all day.
It makes you look like you have a little more skin in the game. So a lot of times your payment's a lot lower. The big thing with CHFA is their rate is almost always going to be one of the lowest 30-year fixed rates out there. I had a CHFA loan on my own house. It's not just affordable housing. You have to, there's majority of the time, first time home buyer requirement. They want your income to be, depends on the people in the house, but a number of people in the house, but it's about 120 to 137,000. Most people fall underneath that. And you're buying a house roughly under $500,000. Mm. So they're pretty lenient guidelines. A lot of people think, it's just for people that don't have a whole lot of money. No, I mean, you could be coming to the table 20% down and still get that great interest rate. Or if you don't have the money, that's not bad. Right. There's people that have the money and still did the down payment assistance because they wanted to use their money to pay off the car loan. Right. So it's a lot of just diagnosing, and sometimes it is the best loan, sometimes it's not. But CHFA is a great tool. Not every lender has it. So I tell clients that are shopping around, talk to other CHFA lenders, because if they don't have that, they're not showing you all of the loans. They're just showing the loans that they have. And usually the ones that don't do CHFA will try to find some sort of thing to complain about it. Right. So I'll get off my little soapbox.
No, that's good. So in this market, it's just, I think it's still competitive in the sense that, people are still buying. What are some strategies, or I guess, what would you say to potential home buyers in this market? And I guess, what would you want them to understand in this market right now?
Yeah, it takes a little bit more patience. The importance of having a great real estate agent is, paramount. The getting pre-qualified, which is that first step that you want to be getting, I would say it's getting your wallet to go out shopping. If you do all of the underwriting and all the having us call the employers and collecting the bank statements, but having all that paperwork done when you're out there looking for a house, then you're pre-approved. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people interchange pre-qualification and pre-approval. They're different. Pre-qualification is, I looked at your stuff. You look pretty good. I don't give out a pre-qualification letter if I have any worries, but that's not everybody. Okay. Some people throw it at the wall, see what sticks. Mm-hmm. Pre-approval means you are good. We've called your employer. We have your bank statements. Right. So when you're going up against, it's not buyer versus seller really anymore. It's buyer versus all the other buyers.
Right.
So if you can do anything to make yourself look a little bit more attractive to that seller, if you're a sure thing, I'll take if I'm a seller, I'm going to take your offer 10 times out of 10. Even if somebody might be in a different, more lenient loan product and they're just pre-qualified, you're a sure thing. I'm taking it. Then really the only person you're behind is a cash offer, which you can't do anything about those now, but just do whatever you can to make yourself, and also it makes the home buying process a lot easier. You've already done all the mortgage paperwork. I joke around, everybody wants a house, but nobody wants a mortgage. So just get all the mucky stuff done, and then you can actually enjoy the home buying process with your agent.
And that's valuable. It's I just think of it from a business standpoint is how do I make myself more valuable to, in my industry, in my profession? And it's the same thing with the buyers, right? How can I make my situation better to make sure I can position myself to buy this house? We got a few minutes here left, probably 5-10 minutes, probably a little bit quicker than that, but I want to just a couple of things. So, aside your professional achievements, what are you most proud of in your personal life?
My son, Grant. You probably knew that answer was coming.
I did.
I just, you get it beat up at the office most days. Well, not most days, but you get beat up at the office some days and your battery level is low, mentally. And you come home and there's this little guy that's got his arms up. That's just like, and there's nothing better. Close second, my wife. And
do you want me to edit that part out?
But Grant is just, he is just, perfection personified. He's just a great kid. Even when he's crying super early in the morning, having that little kid nuzzle right into you, you can't buy that. How's becoming a dad change your work-life balance perspective? Getting him into daycare and flying off to the office or getting up super early, return those emails before getting him ready. It's going back to those 5 keys of success. It's that time management. And I will admit, sometimes I'm failing at that. And my wife has been great. She's thinking of things that will happen with Grant and I'm like, oh, we need to buy this. And she's like, yeah, it's already in the cupboard. We need to get a new, car seat. She's like, I've already picked it out.
5 steps ahead.
And so it's that team. What do they say when you get married and nothing feels like nothing's really changed? That's perfect relationship. And but I will be the first to admit, like it was an adjustment. But also being in that hospital room and you're holding your son and you're just like, man, this kid, I'm a dad.
Right.
Holy cow.
It's an amazing feeling.
Nothing like it. No offense to any of my clients, but I'm proud of your closing. Grant is paramount.
That's awesome. Two questions about personal achievements, not personal achievements, but is there a book besides your engineering studies that you would recommend to somebody?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one
Robert
that really,
Kiyosaki.
Really changed it for me. Really kind of taught me that, you even from a business standpoint, you spend your money on things that are going to make you more money.
Right.
A lot of people buy stuff that they think is making them more money, the nice car, the fancy jewelry, or the whatever. But at the end of the day, it's an expense. Right. It's not putting money back in your pocket. So
it's the poor dad mentality.
Yeah, exactly. That was one big thing. And the other books, gosh, that's really it. And then U Squared was another one. Same sort of, it's really a lot of those self-help kind of things. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I used to have a stack of them here and I'd pass them out to clients. And if I got them back, that was great. If I didn't, then that means that it stayed with them.
I have it in my library. I just haven't, I listened to his podcast, but I haven't read the book yet, which you got to read the book.
Read it with a pen, with Google next to you so you can,
cross-reference.
I tell every client it's like 90 pages, big font, pictures, my kind of book.
For sure.
I'm an engineer. Right. Books are not my thing. If it has numbers, I get that. That's the big ones.
What advice do you have for any young professionals looking to build a successful career in mortgages, especially now and moving forward?
Don't do it. Leave it for me. No, it's okay. I mean, the advice is just with any business, as we said before, controlling expectations.
Yeah.
Learn, get that foundation, get a good mentor.
Yeah.
When you have, those realtors that first started, and I'm sort of, teaching them, I always say, get your team. If you have a great real estate attorney, a great insurance agent, a appraiser, you really don't have choices on the appraiser, but building those relationships, having a great mortgage guy, whatever, or lady, having that team, and that way you're learning from every closing you have to then do it better the next time and do it better. And just realize that you're never going to hit that perfection. You're always trying to, you're chasing that carrot of, I'm always aspiring to be better than myself the last time.
Like golf.
Yeah.
Very much like golf.
Nobody's going to get an 18.
Yeah. Never. So, what are some of your favorite hobbies or hobby?
Now, I mean, before it was running, obviously not anymore.
You look good, man. You do look good.
It's just hanging out with Grant, and he's just on the cusp of saying some words. I know it's coming.
Saying dad, mama yet, at least?
Yeah. And like he'll see our pictures on the wall, and if I like, my wife will say he's saying dad, and he's pointing. So it's coming. I mean, just being a dad right now. Other than that, I mean, I know it sounds pretty boring, but it's mortgages, being a dad and a husband all day. That's and sleep.
Good. You got plenty of time when you retire to focus on some new hobbies. So, if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
I don't want to say having more patience, but knowing the importance of patience. That's probably one thing. And then listen to my wife. She's usually pretty right. We've known each other for probably 20 years and dated in college and whatever and all that stuff. If I had just listened to her, way back when more, I'd only be better than I am now. So,
if you weren't a mortgage originator, what would you be doing?
Aerospace engineer. I joke around that people are like, "Man, this stuff's like rocket science," and I go, "Well, I was a rocket scientist." But I mean, I probably should mold that into some sort of mascot or branding or something. But that's what I'd be.
I think this got touched on earlier, but again, what is the most valuable advice you have ever received? Are those 5 points? Yeah,
there's those 5 points. I had a friend that said, it's not always just the golden rule. There's the platinum rule. So golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. Obviously, everybody knows that. You always try to do that. But also talk to people how they want to be talked to. So if you're a visual person, have them come into the office. My wife and I, great example. I need to see that Google Maps with that map and knowing that, there's a turn coming up, probably looks like a mile down the road. She needs to see the line by line directions. I can't stand doing that, but that's how she, so if I'm explaining something to her, it's like that. Right. And so knowing how clients, anybody, how they want to be spoken to, even just some people are motivated on a big goal. Some people are motivated on little small goals that reach up to a big goal. So knowing what makes them tick and motivates them, and that, it's not about you. It's about helping somebody else get to their, the goals that they're trying to achieve.
Closing thought. What's one thing you're most grateful for in your career?
My team, whether it's the real estate agents, insurance agents, attorneys, my I call them my ops team, operation teams, the underwriters, the processors. We all have each other's back. And I know I've called you sometimes, hey man, can you figure out this insurance, or can you get a binder by the end of the day, and like saving the day. And if you don't have a team, like nobody does this by themselves. When everybody says they're self-made, whatever, the only one probably that's self-made is Taylor Swift. Everybody else has a team behind them to get to, you were mentioning the achievements and whatever. Yeah. I mean, that's good. I love being recognized for hard work, but it's more, I can't do it by myself. When I get that award, it's really everybody else that helped me to accomplish that. So.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
KeithTurnerHFC.com would be a good starting point. It's Keith Turner as in, HFC's Homestead Funding Corp, but KeithTurnerHFC.com. call us at the office, 860-444-0650, or just Google Keith Turner Homestead Funding. It'll pop up. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Excuse me, sorry. But the first step with home buying, every real estate agent will mention it, is getting pre-qualified first. So calling in, scheduling that appointment. Don't be afraid. I hear it more often than not, like, I didn't want to come in because I didn't know what I'd qualified for. Well, you don't go into a doctor's office knowing what the diagnosis is. Get diagnosed, get pre-qualified, and whether or not you buy the house, but at least you know where you stand. So,
Keith, this was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
We'll have to do part 2 about engineering in full next time.
Definitely.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks.